On today's show, Jamir Watkins, the former second-round pick, he gets a new contract with the Washington Wizards, a 2-year deal. Another late-round draft success for Will Dawkins in this front office, and that has started to define a strength of them.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you are locked on to the Washington Wizards, where you're part of our family. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team, free and available every single day. We are the #1 sports podcast network in the nation. Today we're brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavors back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Alongside the DC sports content creating Savannah Abdullah Ayubi, I'm Ben Strober, and I cover the Washington Wizards for Roundtable.io. AB, I know you've been celebrating Ramadan. Shout out to everyone that's celebrating. Hope everyone's enjoying it so far. Just wanted to check in with you. How's it been so far?
Honestly, it's easier than past years because around 2017, 2016, when I first started, sunset was at around 9 p.m., and now it's at 6 o'clock, so not too bad. But I appreciate it, Ben.
Yeah, no problem. Anyone that's also celebrating, let us know how fasting is going for you guys in the comments. On today's show, we talk a little bit about Jamir Watkins. He got a 2-year contract with the Washington Wizards, former second-round pick who was on a 2-way contract. Just another successful late draft story. Him and now Tristan Vukcevic in the past 2 weeks have received new contracts as second-round picks. We also talk a little bit about why it's going to be vital they hit again in the next upcoming draft. Drafting has gone well for this new front office, but they have to hit again. And then we talk a little bit about the Phoenix Suns because we've talked about that pick swap before. We kind of thought that we weren't going to have any chance of having a swap opportunity, but Phoenix is banged up right now. They might slide a little bit, and I think it's something that's worth mentioning in the third and final segment. But let's start with Jamir Watkins here. Before last week, AB, when we got the new contract for Tristan Vukcevic, the Wizards hadn't signed one of their second-round picks to a second contract since Shelvin Mack in 2011. Now, back-to-back weeks here, you get Vukcevic and you get Watkins, and you convert them to standard contracts. And I think these were both really well-deserved deals. It's a 2-year deal for Jamir Watkins, and from day one, AB, I felt like this guy belonged on the NBA floor. It was evident to me in the Summer League, and it's been evident to me in the way he has provided the defensive energy for this team. I'm really excited that the front office has been able to find these guys that have been impactful rotational players, and they'll continue to be part of the process and development thing that we have going on here for the next year or two.
Yeah, shout out to Greg Finberg. I also saw his tweet. It's crazy, within a span of a few days, 2 second-round picks both get new contracts. And it just goes to show, Ben, when you hit on your draft picks and they go out there and play meaningful basketball, they'll get that new contract. And I'm so happy because, again, years past, we just didn't really see that. We just assumed once a guy was picked outside of the first round for the Wizards, we wouldn't see them after a couple of years. But that's not been the case for a Jamir Watkins, a Tristan Vukcevic. And Jamir, coming out of Florida State, offensively very raw, and he's going to get better. I saw you put out that 3-point shot stat. Defensively, I love what he brings, the intensity, man, that wingspan at around 6'11". And next season, when this team is hopefully going to play better basketball, Jamir Watkins is going to be a big part of it defensively. And it just goes to show that this organization knows what they're doing. They are doing their due diligence, not only their 6th overall pick, not only Will Riley, but also in Jamir Watkins, a guy who not many people talked about because, again, we didn't know much about him, but you saw flashes in the Summer League, the steals that he got, and I'm excited. Also, the highlight reel, the dunks that he gives you out there, Ben, he's going to have an exciting future here in D.C.
Yeah, I think you and I saw it firsthand, the athleticism and the ability to go out there and pick up 94 feet. This dude is just a dog. Like, he has that mentality, and I think that's important for an organization to have. He hustles out there, he grinds, and he gives you everything he has every time he steps on the basketball floor. And I put out the tweet the other day that he's been shooting only 25% from distance this season, but he's found kind of a hot zone in the right corner where he's been shooting over 40%. And I said that his 3-ball progression would likely dictate his future, but I guess the organization has already seen enough in terms of his defensive ability that they're able to be proactive in this situation and make the move to keep it. And I think you have to be proactive, as I said. when you're a front office in this situation and get these guys locked in, because sometimes they can get away from you a little bit, and we've seen different instances of that in the past within other teams. So Washington's done a good job of hanging on to a guy that I think can provide you a valuable piece in a rotation because of what he's been able to do defensively. AB, I love the dude that has hustle. I love the dude that has heart out there, and that's Jamir.
Yeah, and it's amazing how in a room that was so crowded, we were talking about in this season how crowded the wing room is, and I understand that Bilal is dealing with multiple injuries, Cam Whitmore out for the season. Jamir Watkins takes advantage of his opportunities, and I wanted to see him get some burn with the Capital City Go-Go, but post-trade deadline, I want to see this kid play as many minutes as he can, Ben, because defensively he really impacts the way teams are trying to attack the rim offensively, the perimeter defense, the ability to block shots. There are times where he blocks bigger dudes. I remember when the Wizards were playing the Timberwolves at Capital One Arena, he wasn't scared to guard a Rudy Gobert. That's what I'm talking about. That's the heart that I love to see, and that comes from being a second-round pick, being an underdog. And for Jamir, it's going to be exciting next season when he's playing alongside Trae Young, a guy that can throw him lobs. And I really think, Ben, if you look at it through a bigger picture, Will Dawkins, and you can make arguments for some of the guys, but every draft pick that he's made and within his tenure has made an impact on the court. And previous regimes, you just couldn't make that argument.
I think they've done a really nice job of drafting and then in turn developing so far. And we're going to talk about in the second segment where it says, like, you've been successful in the first three drafts that you've had here, but this one just might be the most important one in terms of, like, definitely hitting on a guy that you hopefully get in the top of this draft. I've heard people say crazy things on podcasts, like the Bill Simmons podcast. They'll say, like, I don't know, this draft is so stacked, like, if you miss on a pick, like, it might be a fireable offense. I don't know if I'd go that far in a situation like that, but you got to hit on what you have upcoming in this next draft. Guys, we'll talk more about that in the next upcoming segment that we have here on the Locked On Wizards podcast. But in terms of, like, production that you get out of a second-round pick, it's completely changed my perception of how I value those picks, because I remember when Winger and Dawkins first took over, it seemed like we were just collecting infinity stones of second-round picks. I'm just kind of like, I mean, what are we doing here? Like, are we gonna pick players with these? Are we gonna trade them? Like, what's the plan here? And then I've come to realize now, like, there are talented players in the second round of these drafts. You just have to be able to find them. You have to be able to find people that make sense for what you're trying to do. And I think Tristan Vukcevic has made sense in terms of, like, having a good depth piece as a center. He's very talented offensively, and I like what he's done on that end of the basketball. I think he has traits that work defensively. I think there's room for him to get better. He's a 22-year-old guy. And then Jamir Watkins, you kind of take a flyer on the guy because he's 24 years old. He's played a little bit longer college basketball. He's got a little bit more experience, but you want to build a defensive identity, so you need to have players that you can consider a defensive stopper, and I think they got that in Watkins. It's going to be interesting to see how he develops his offensive game, to see how often you can have a guy like that on the floor. But if he does develop that three-point shot, that's your 3-and-D for the next couple of years, and you get him on the cheap right now as well.
And again, not many GMs take advantage of their second-round picks. We all see the memes of Nikola Jokic getting drafted when a Taco Bell commercial was airing. Draymond Green was a second-round pick. I think Isaiah Thomas was a second-round pick. You see so many of these gems, and many teams kind of oversee the value in the second round because the draft is basically a crapshoot after top 10, top 15. It's rare to land a really good player, or star at least, but you can find those really good players, those guys that can impact the game defensively. And next season, when it comes to Jamir Watkins, I think he's going to be a top 3, top 4 defender on this roster alongside Bilal Coulibaly, alongside Keyshawn George. Alex Sarr is an elite rim protector. Hopefully healthy Anthony Davis playing as well. It's going to be a fun squad, and I just seen so much from him, Ben, Jamir, that I just don't think it makes any sense to assign him to the Capital City Go-Go. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, he'll play significant minutes, I think, for this team to develop his offense. I just want to get in some of the defensive numbers that we have. The NBA.com tracking data, just matchup data one-on-one against certain players, because we've seen him go out there and guard a Donovan Mitchell, a James Harden, a Jamal Murray. Like, we've seen him take that matchup and try to take away what a number one option does best. Just going to give you some of the numbers. He forced 4 turnovers on Donovan Mitchell in 7 total minutes that he was matched up with them. 3 turnovers on Michael Porter Jr., 2 turnovers on DeMar DeRozan. He held Jamal Murray to 20% shooting. James Harden was the one I think that got the best of him when he was out there, 75% shooting, but just on 4 attempts and only 5 minutes that he was actually matched up with them. But I think it also speaks volume. Like, we know how ball dominant that James Harden is, so 5 minutes and he only took 4 shots in that span. I think it says a lot about like the opportunities that don't exist when Jamir Watkins is matched up one-on-one. And I just really look to the numbers against a guy like Donovan Mitchell. He guarded him for 7 total minutes so far this season, and I think he did a really good job taking away some number 1 options this season.
Yeah, and again, I think the ability that a young guy can just be thrown out there into the fire and say, yo, guard Donovan Mitchell, guard James Harden, guard this superstar, it just goes to show how much confidence this coaching staff has in Jamir Watkins, who at such a young age is only going to grow from here.
All right, when we come back, the Wizards have evidently hit in another draft last year. I think that's what we can say right now. Things are looking good from that 2025 draft class. 2026, though, they got to do it again. It might be even more important than it was last year. I'll tell you why when we come back. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There is something for everybody. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number 1 pick for the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. First off, you got to give some love to the Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy. That one is elite. If I'm drafting my top pick, though, it's got to be Fruity Rainbow. It's bright, sweet, and it doesn't have that heavy aftertaste. Confetti Craze, sleeper. It's fun too, but Fruity Rainbow is my number 1 overall. Another sleeper, just got to go back to that Cotton Candy, man. I said we got to give it some love, but I'm stocking up on that one because it's still a top contender for me. 5-Hour Energy Shots give you a boost with the 0 sugar. One of the flavors I'd love to see get made, love to see a blue raspberry of some sort. I think that would go crazy. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy Shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time comes in. It's the go-to app for scoring tickets without the hassle, and it puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. If you pull up the Game Time app, you can find tickets and get locked and loaded within minutes. I love seeing all of the prices in front or up front, no surprise fees at checkout. Being able to see the view from the seat before buying makes the decision so easy. Zone deals stood out to me. You can choose a section and Game Time picks the seats and you save. Great last minute options available too. NBA tickets sometimes show up at solid prices right before tip-off. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. 2025 draft class, I think, has been an overall pretty ample success, to say the least. Trey Johnson, a bit of a shooting slump right now, but I think we've seen like the kind of player that he can be. I think he's going to be a real high-level player on this team for years to come. And then Will Riley, man, like he has really come on strong. I think he's been 4th in scoring in the month of February amongst all rookies. He continues to look even better, even more confident every single week that we're playing here. Now that he's getting more minutes, AB. But 2026, man, this class is loaded, and it could define this Wizards rebuild because of what's available at the top of the draft. I think Dawkins has hit on the majority of the picks that we've had so far. I think you could make arguments for a couple of the guys in there, like whether you think they've been productive enough. I know a lot of people are low on Bub right now, but I'm not giving up on Bub at the moment. I think he's struggling right now, but I still think there's an opportunity for him to carve out what the role will be for him going forward. Outside of that, I think everyone else they've drafted has been able to be impactful in some way, including these second-round picks. But you got to hit right now at the top of this draft to take the next step. If we want to get to that contender status, we got to get our star player in this draft, man.
Do you see, Ben, a possibility where they use – because how many second-round picks do we have coming up? 2? If I'm looking at it right.
I think we have 3. I got to double check real quick.
Yeah, I was thinking about the compensation. Is there a possibility where you take your guy, hopefully it's a top 3 pick, and you trade back into the first round, you use that late draft capital and make something happen, make some magic happen?
That might be something worth noting because a lot of people think there's going to be some really high-end top talent at the end of this first round. And even in the second round of this draft, there's going to be some super important, talented players that are involved at that part of the draft. And like we've seen, this front office has been able to draft players in the second round that have been notable and have become guys that have gotten new contracts with this team. So I think even if you are picking in the second round at this point with a couple of picks that you do have, maybe they do trade some of them at some point, but if you end up picking in the second round here, I think you can find another player that might be serviceable at a position of need at the time.
Because logically, Ben, do you think they're going to use all 3 second-round picks? I don't know. To me,
I don't know either. Let me double check here where they're at in terms of second-round picks. I had this written down in a spreadsheet, and I'm now unable to find it, but I will find it up in a second.
But that's what I'm saying. Maybe you could use 2 second-round picks to move up early in the second round, a possibility where, again, you just want to add more young talent. You just want to add depth. I think that's the end goal after you use your first-round pick.
Yeah. All right, so I'm looking at it right here, the draft order that we have right now. The Wizards are slated to pick 52nd right now in a pick from Minnesota in the 2026 draft right here.
Okay.
So we have that. Unless I'm reading this wrong. I don't know, but there's going to be options available in the second round.
Because I remember last year, Ben, I wanted the possibility to happen where you can go up and trade up for Derek Queen, because I remember people were talking about Derek Queen potentially falling. So is that a possibility where you land a top 4 pick and then you make something happen? Will Dawkins, rubs his hands together and says, hey, we're going to trade back into the late first round and get another guy that we really like. Who knows?
Just from using the second round picks?
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. Again, maybe because we have a lot of second round picks for years to come, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you probably have to package up other assets to make that move.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
I wonder if they would consider that worth it or not. But just in terms of the star power that you get in this draft, if you're picking in the top 3, you have to get a guy that's going to be impactful. And I think all of the top 3 guys that we talked about yesterday are going to be super impactful in the NBA, whether or not in terms of superstar status, does one guy stand out more than the other? Boozer, I think, has the highest floor, but I think he does have the upside that makes a lot of sense for an organization. I think he'd fit here like a glove. I don't know if there's a situation right now where Cam Boozer doesn't fit in. And I know you have AD and Saul right here, but that doesn't concern me at all. I'd be ecstatic to get Boozer on this team and see what he's made of, because he's going to have a 15-year career where he just puts up 20 and 10. I think he's instantly a 16-8 player in the NBA, if I had to guess. I just see his game translating right away. I don't really care that he's 2 inches too short for what people say. I just think that guy is that good. He has such a high basketball IQ, and he can do so many different things well.
Remember, he really liked the Wizards' new locker room, so maybe that's a sign.
I mean, it means something. Sometimes guys talk to their agents, and they tell them where they dictate where they want to go, and that stuff matters. It does. And Boozer, better. I hope he got used to playing in that building. He had a pretty good game. He didn't have his best scoring game, but he had a pretty good game overall, and he obviously liked the locker room. So that might mean something. There's a real notion that the perception of the organization, AB, I think, is changing, which is important.
Bro, we used to pray for times like this, Ben. It was so annoying. I mean, still there are some jokes where we're the punching bag of the league, but obviously winning changes all. But seeing a guy like Cameron Boozer, what he's doing at Duke, complimenting the Wizards locker room and the renovations and everything that's happening and how this front office is moving and the league-wide perception of them, it brings you a smile. If you're listening to this podcast and you're a Wizards fan, it brings a smile to your face knowing that you won't be the butt of the joke for hopefully at least a decade, because you have guys out there that are blue-chip players potentially and are going to go out there and compete.
I think that's what we're starting to build. You're building a legitimate team that has prospects that people will actually know about, that will actually care about. Because, man, there have been a lot of players on this roster over the last couple of seasons, even the end of the Tommy Shepard era, where, they're just kind of nobodies, all due respect to them. But a lot of them will not be memorable players unless you are a Wizards fan. How many NBA fans are going to remember Raul Neto?
Oh, I remember, trust. Remember the small guard lineup, Ben? Scott Brooks.
Man, that takes me back. I saw Scott Brooks because he's an assistant of the Lakers now. Mm-hmm. So when he was back in the building, I almost wanted to go up and talk to him just about some of his days of the Wizards, but I didn't get a chance to sit down and talk with him. Scott Brooks had he had an okay run initially, and then it just kind of wore out a little bit toward the end. And like at the end of the day, like they hired him because they thought they were going to get KD by hiring him, and then they kind of just had to roll with the punches after that.
You got to try somehow. I was going to also bring up the fact, Ben, you mentioned how if you get Boozer, fans are going to be worried about the combination of AD and Sar. But can't you use that same argument if you drafted Darren Peterson for a room with Bub Carrington, Trey Johnson, Trae Young? So either way, when you acquire this young guy coming up, it's going to affect the roster, and it's going to be interesting to see how this coaching staff manages that.
Yeah, I just think it makes more sense, though, in the Boozer realm because I don't think you can rely on Anthony Davis to play a ton of games.
Good point.
And also, like, you're not committed to that long term. Like, you don't really think Anthony Davis is going to be here more than a year or two, most likely, unless something happens this summer. We'll see. I know he probably wants a new contract, but I don't really think the organization should give him an extension. I think you and I have talked about that a little bit. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more. Hopefully that doesn't become anything that becomes an issue at some point, but based on what I've heard so far, like I've heard good things about Davis in terms of him wanting to be here, him wanting to revitalize his career. And Grievous Vasquez today, he was on the Junkies. We're going to get him on this show hopefully next week.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to try to make that happen. He thinks that this was the perfect situation for Davis because he needed an opportunity to like revitalize his image. Because he was part of the Luka trade, it just like ruined his image because there were such high expectations that he had to work out in Dallas when he was kind of in a situation that was never going to work out. And that was like the tough reality of it. But now if he comes to DC and he can help these young players get better and help this Wizards team get back to the playoffs, that's going to be a great look for him going forward of like saying like, hey man, I still got it. I'm 32, pushing 33 years old. I've struggled with the injury stuff, but I can still hoop, man. Like don't call me Unk just yet.
This summer, Ben, is going to be huge when it comes to free agency decisions, contract extension talks, and the draft lottery. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast, man. All right, when we come back, Phoenix Suns are starting to get a little bit banged up. Does that mean they will slide enough that Washington will have another opportunity to swap picks in the lottery? Talk about it when we come back. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored job helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Got a little bit of clarification. So Washington is slated to pick 59th and 52nd in the draft. So maybe there's a chance they could move up in the second round at some point or move back in late first round. I know you traded away pick 30. I think I was fine to do that. You got Anthony Davis out of it, so not too worried about that because that wasn't your own pick. But if they could find a way to move up in the draft, that would be very interesting to know. All right, moving on with the conversation here with the Phoenix Suns. I thought this was kind of a lost cause in terms of swapping with them, at least for this year, because, man, Jordan Ott, like, that dude should seriously be in the Coach of the Year considerations. Like, what has happened in Phoenix, a failed super team that blew it all up this past summer and then created a more balanced roster with Jalen Green, with Dylan Brooks, alongside Devin Booker, who got a new contract, Jordan Goodwin, former Wizard. They've been a really good team this year. They looked like they were bound to be a top 6 team in the Western Conference, but unfortunately in basketball, injuries do happen. They've lost 2 in a row. They've only won 3 of their last 7 games. They're 33 and 26 right now, currently sitting 7th in the Western Conference. But the way things stack up, if people miss extended amounts of time, it could involve Phoenix getting back into the lottery here. So I'm going to go through some of the injuries that we have right here. Cole Anthony is out. Jordan Goodwin is out. He'll be reevaluated in 1 to 2 weeks. Dylan Brooks' timetable for his broken left hand is 4 to 6 weeks. That's pretty
huge.
Significant amount of time. That's almost the majority of the rest of the regular season that Brooks might be out. And that could force Phoenix back into the play-in, if not worse. Devin Booker has a right hip strain, and he'll be reevaluated by the staff here in a couple of days. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with Booker. But if you just look at like where we are in terms of the lottery right now, Phoenix is about 4 games from being back in the lottery, which would be huge for Washington because of that pick swap. It's just another opportunity to get at something if there's some kind of miracle thing like Dallas having a 1.8% chance. I don't know. Maybe Phoenix will be that team, and somehow
imagine Ben, how crazy that would be.
That would be insane. That would actually be insane. But this is big, AB.
Yeah, back-to-back years where a small percent chance of someone moving up to number 1 would be insane to think about. But yeah, I think the Suns, I didn't really think much of them like you said. Dylan Brooks proved me wrong. Is averaging 20 points per game, really good basketball, but now he's out at least for 4 weeks. And a stacked Western Conference with no Devin Booker, that's the number 1 option. It's going to be tough for them to potentially get out of the play-in spot, and I think they're going to be fighting in the play-in. And to be honest, I don't know. I think knowing how banged up your key guys are in Brooks and Booker, it's going to be hard to get that 6th seed. So if you're a Wizards fan, ideally you just want to root for the Suns to lose as many games as you can so you can maybe potentially use that pick swap. And it only works, correct, Ben, if we land a top 8 pick, right?
Yeah, if we lose our pick, we would not be able to orchestrate the swap. That is correct. Now, there is one thing that is actually confusing me about this, and I was not aware of this. So it also says that Phoenix pick is outgoing to Charlotte, and it's unprotected under complex conditions. So I'm not sure if that's another situation where if Washington can't swap, then Charlotte can. So I'm going to have to find clarifications on that. So I apologize that I don't have that at the moment. I can update that in the comments when I do figure out exactly what that actually even means. But that is interesting of note. But I think it is still noteworthy, like people have been talking about it, that the swap would be an opportunity if Phoenix ends up in the lottery. And it's something that could end up happening. I mean, can you imagine if we traded Bradley Beal and it became Trae Young eventually, and then somehow that actually became the number 1 overall pick too?
Imagine how blown Suns fans would be too.
Man,
oh man,
that'd be so brutal, because I think Suns fans have been super happy with how the season has gone for them, and like all the credit to them. I didn't think they'd be good this year. I thought
Colin Gillespie, a guy that I just been balling out, Ben.
Yeah, he's been really good. Brooks has evidently been really good. Maybe Memphis shouldn't have given up on him too soon. Maybe they shouldn't have scapegoated him. Yeah, now like I don't know. Maybe Ja really is the problem, and then they got rid of they're about to go into like a full rebuild. But who knows what rebuilding even looks like in the NBA right now? Like what is it going to look like next year? AB, we don't even know.
Yeah, I'm just happy that we're getting out of the tanking sweepstakes as soon as they're thinking about changing the rules, because I just can't do it anymore. This whole tankathon, this whole Dallas Mavericks having a less than 1% chance of landing Cooper Flag and they get flagged. It's it's too much of a headache, Ben.
Did you see the I think Sleeper Wizards posted it of Will Dawkins and the Jazz GM looking at each other when the Spurs got the 2nd pick and Dallas got the 1st pick? They both just like there's a glare. There's like they're like, oh,
I don't
man.
blame them. How do you not side eye after looking at that? I mean, I'm gonna be real. Even if Dallas doesn't get 1 or 2, I'm gonna be mad if they get a top 4 pick coming up. There's just no way you land Flag, a generational talent like him, and the next year you get a guy like Wilson or Boozer. Like, what the heck, bro?
It's crazy. Well, AB, did you know that since the lottery stuff has changed since 2019, the team with the 3rd best odds has gotten number 1 the most?
Okay, so we got to land for 3.
And we're getting back at that from Brooklyn.
Yeah. So, Sacramento again. They're gonna finish bottom of the bottom, Ben.
Yeah, but the bottom team has not really fared well in the lottery. I don't think they've gotten number 1, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, Detroit. I think Washington. Remember at one point weren't we in that dilemma?
Yeah, the lottery hasn't really fared well to teams that have finished at the very bottom of the NBA standings for whatever well, I mean, it's a stupid system, so that's exactly why. But it is interesting to note, like maybe there's some strategy from Washington saying we don't even want to be number 1 because we feel like the odds are somehow going to be better, even though they're not really necessarily better. But if you land 3, if you're in the 3rd spot, you have the same odds of landing the 1st overall pick. The only thing is you have an opportunity to fall to 7, which would be worse than falling to 5. But in this draft class, maybe Washington's not as worried about that, saying like we're cool with that. If you do fall to 7, worst case scenario, like you'd be okay with that. I don't know.
Maybe
they're just trying to follow the trend. Who knows?
I think New Orleans is going to start picking up some wins, Ben, because this is frustrating, bro.
I saw a guy. He's actually part of the Locked On Network. I think he does Locked On Saints, and I think he actually filled in on. Locked On Pelicans for Jake Madison at one point. I'm gonna pull it up right here. Yeah, Dylan Sanders. He put a whole detailed thing out. The New Orleans Pelicans path to the play-in game. I said we got
at
the
17 and 42. Talking about playing.
I said we have Pelicans play-in scenarios. This is music to the Wizards, Pacers, Nets, and Jazz ears, I guess. He said the Pelicans are getting healthy again, and the team clearly has the play-in within their goals. The problem is that they're currently 11 games behind the Clippers and only have 23 games left.
That's hilarious.
He actually did come up like I'm not hating on his scenario because he actually did a lot of research and he came up with what's exactly needed. Here's the summary of that. Pelicans would have to go 18-5 in their final 23, and the Clippers would have to go 7-18. That's probably pretty unlikely. If I had to guess, it's very hard to imagine the Pelicans.
If that happens, you might as well play the lottery.
They do play Utah 3 times though. If that's what I'm getting at here, yeah, they play Utah. I think 3 more times. Who else they play? They play the Clippers a couple of times. They play us one more time. Do they play Brooklyn at all? I'd have to look through to see if they play Brooklyn, but there are some games against the tanking teams that New Orleans, I guess, can take advantage of, and they're incentivized to win right now. So when they play us again, I think we'll see a pretty motivated New Orleans team out there. If they lose to us, man, it's really cooked over there.
What do you think, Ben, is a sweet spot for the wins for the Wizards?
Based on how it's stacking up right now, I think we have 3 more games against truly tanking teams. I think if you finish with 20, I think you stay in the bottom 4. Utah right now is in 6th with 18, but they're probably going to leapfrog to 5th based on what New Orleans is doing. And Utah will probably win, I'd say, 3 or 4 more games. I don't know. So I think if you're at 20, I think that guarantees that you'd be in the bottom 4. I don't think Sacramento gets to 20. I don't even know if they get to 16 or 17. Indiana might get to 18 or 19. Brooklyn. I think a lot of these teams play each other. I'd have to go in and actually look at how many times each of these teams play each other to determine like how many wins are left, because some of these guys will have to win some of these games. That's what's
There's no ties in basketball.
That's what's benefited Washington from this scenario, is that their strength of schedule is significantly harder than some of the tanking teams, because I think the Wizards actually got a lot of those games against those teams out of the way. So just imagine if we didn't beat the Pacers twice, we'd be in 2nd right now in those standings and wouldn't really have to worry about them anymore. But I don't know. I think we're in an okay spot right now. I'm not overly concerned at the moment like I was last week. I think I was just a little bit reactionary.
Yeah. Again, I wanted to at least split that series against the Pacers, but the strength of schedule being that high, I think we're going to be just fine. I think 4 is going to be our sweet spot.
I hope you're right. Alrighty, that'll do it for today's edition of the Locked On Wizards podcast. We got Wizards and Hawks tonight. Probably a big L loading, but we'll have to see about that. Maybe we'll get a big night from Will Riley, something like that. We'll have the post-game coverage for you, of course, a little bonus content on the Locked On Wizards podcast. But that'll do it today. For my co-host, Abdullah Ayubi, I'm Ben Strober. We'll talk to you later.